Launching an advanced AI model in the European Union market now requires crossing a hard, unforgiving regulatory boundary. Under the EU AI Act, high-risk systems cannot legally enter the market without first passing a mandatory conformity assessment. A common assumption in the industry is that this assessment is a single, standardized checklist handed to every developer. In practice, the compliance process functions as a conditional logic gate. The exact audit pathway you take depends entirely on your specific technology and your operational use case. For example, the developers of advanced general-purpose foundation models face an entirely different set of centralized regulatory criteria compared to engineers building targeted high-risk applications. Successfully launching a model requires mapping this decision tree long before deployment, whether your audit is handled internally, outsourced to an external third party, or supervised by centralized EU authorities. Failing to anticipate this operational burden translates directly into regulatory blockades and delayed market entries. Integrating the audit pathway into early design phases ensures that compliance remains a technical specification rather than a late-stage administrative obstacle. Let's trace the assessment process for a newly developed high-risk AI system. This diagram shows the initial decision tree, which hinges on a single condition: the existence and application of officially recognized harmonized standards. If an organization fully adopts these established engineering standards, they qualify for the internal assessment pathway. This grants a major operational privilege. You are permitted to conduct your own conformity assessment, proving compliance and maintaining your technical logs entirely in-house. However, if harmonized standards do not exist for your specific use case, or if your team chooses not to fully apply them, the internal route is closed. This diversion triggers the mandatory use of a notified body to evaluate the system before it can legally launch. A notified body is an independent, third-party evaluating organization accredited by national authorities. They take the assessment out of your hands. While high-risk applications navigate this standard-based logic gate, a secondary track exists. General-purpose AI and foundation models bypass these national standard checks entirely, routing directly to the centralized supervision of the EU AI Office. The decision to adopt established engineering standards at the start of a project dictates whether you or an external third party control your path to market. Regardless of whether your auditor is an internal team or an external notified body, the standards for passing remain identical. This diagram illustrates how both high-risk pathways converge into a central evaluation block, demanding comprehensive documentation across 4 strict criteria. The first pillar is data governance. You must provide evidence that all training, testing, and validation datasets are of high quality. More specifically, these datasets must be proven to be relevant to the use case and structurally free of discriminatory biases. The second pillar evaluates risk management systems. The legislation does not accept risk mitigation as a one-time checklist prior to launch. You must demonstrate that continuous risk mitigation and testing mechanisms are embedded natively into the AI lifecycle. The third requirement is technical documentation, which demands exhaustive records of the system's architecture, model design, and precise performance metrics. The final pillar is human oversight. The system must be explicitly designed to allow human-in-the-loop monitoring at all times. This means proving the existence of definitive functional override controls and clear escalation mechanisms. Surviving an EU conformity assessment is a matter of translating abstract legal principles into hard-coded, demonstrable engineering features. Clearing the pre-market audit and launching the system is only the first phase of compliance. Treating deployment as the finish line is a critical operational failure. This chart shows the linear compliance tree transitioning into a continuous loop, representing the legal mandate for active, ongoing governance once the system is operational. Your first post-market obligation is the automated, continuous logging of all system inputs and outputs. Second, you must maintain a dedicated post-market monitoring system to track the model's behavior over its operational lifespan. Third, if that monitoring detects an anomaly, the company is strictly obligated to report any significant incidents directly to the authorities. For developers of advanced general-purpose AI, the post-market phase has its own isolated track. They must continuously audit themselves against dedicated codes of practice, proving they manage systemic risks and respect intellectual property laws as the model evolves. The EU AI Act treats conformity as an active, ongoing obligation that requires permanent operational surveillance. This diagram illustrates the complete regulatory ecosystem, connecting the pre-market audits to the post-market loops under a single enforcement layer. The entities governing this entire architecture are the national market surveillance authorities. Their mandate extends far beyond reviewing initial paperwork. They are empowered to conduct unannounced system evaluations at any point in the model's lifecycle. Failing one of these continuous evaluations triggers severe operational consequences. Authorities possess the power to issue massive fines and can demand the immediate withdrawal of non-compliant AI systems from the European market entirely. Navigating these punitive threats requires executing a precise strategy before writing a single line of code. Developers should start by utilizing the EU AI Act compliance checker to accurately determine their system's exact classification and baseline requirements. If your specific use case lacks harmonized standards, consult the European Commission notified bodies registry immediately to secure an accredited third-party evaluator. Mastering the logic of these audit pathways transforms EU regulatory compliance from an operational bottleneck into a decisive competitive advantage.